Now, experts from around the world are calling for stronger institutions, better pay for public officials, and greater transparency to curb corruption and its impact on human rights. They spoke at a global panel discussion examining how corruption undermines justice, equality, and access to basic services. According to them, corruption not only drains national resources, but also erodes human rights, deepens poverty, and weakens public trust in government. Speakers from Nigeria, Canada, the Philippines, the United States, and France shared insights on how corruption fuels discrimination and social inequality.
If you're not able to afford a lawyer, you're not able to bribe the police officers, your matter is not going to move past that station.
Yeah, in Iran, corruption is not a deviation from governance, it is the governing model itself. The regime's ruling elites systematically treat public wealth as their private reserve. According to Corruption Perceptions Index, Iran ranks 151 out of 180 countries.
We overthrew a president in 2000 for corruption, Estrada. And then the vice president who replaced him, we filed an impeachment complaint against her in 2007 for corruption. Who checks the guardians, so to speak? We filed an impeachment complaint on the ombudsman herself.
Apex of the misuse of the pardon power was the pardoning of the January 6th. People were convicted in the January 6th attempt to overthrow the democracy, right? It was ultimately the original sin is to try to remove the one check on the ultimate check on abuse of power, which is elections.
We are talking about millions of people having to pay a small bribe for every single thing in your daily life. So you have a baby, you need to pay a bribe to get a birth certificate. You want to see a doctor, you have to pay a bribe to be able to assess the doctor.
Well, joining me for more on this is legal practitioner Sunday Agu. Well, it's good to see global leaders, gather to discuss the impact of corruption, especially on human rights. But what is the role of individual countries in the protection of human rights?
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Wagu, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you now, but I didn't get the question. Sorry.
All right. I was talking about, the fact that it's actually a great thing to see global leaders gather to discuss the issue of corruption, which, of course, is a major challenge. But what is the role of individual countries in this fight against corruption?
All right. The truth is that corruption needs to be treated, even if we come together to discuss about it on the large scale, we need to deal with it at the individual country levels, because it is only when we get it right at the individual country levels that we begin to share experience to see how the things have now changed in various other jurisdictions. So the country, for the national government, for the states, as we call them in international law, it is their responsibility to ensure that corruption is nipped at the bud. In fact, some scholars have argued that the right to a corrupt-free society should even be seen as a form of a new human right that needs to be instituted, because everybody deserves to live in a society that is corruption-free.
When you talk about corruption, focus is usually on, the financial aspect, financial corruption. But then many would tell you that there are other aspects of corruption that we seem to not be paying so much attention to. How do we address these other sectors?
So corruption is not just the grand corruption, like as we may want to think about it. There is issues around grand corruption, but there are also issues around petty corruptions. There are also issues around, in fact, corruption can occur in almost every sector of the society. So whereas some government most often focus on grand corruption, on the major, on the big corruption, like they say, petty corruption and the other forms of corruption is a real problem to the society, because this is the aspect that really deals with the individual members of the society. Take, for instance, when a police officer collects 200 naira from someone and decides to pervert justice or let the person pass without a proper search. You can see that it leads to also security issues, and which eventually might even lead to protracted incarceration without care, without any cause. Yeah.
Santiago is a legal practitioner, and he just joined us from Canada. Thank you so much for your thoughts on TVC News at 7.
Thank you very much.